W1310 AM in Ottawa
and CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 17th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, minus 13. In Smiths Falls, it is minus 12. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. With recent LRT issues, a new city council and a highly debated draft budget set to drop in 2 weeks, and councillors are pondering what the future of transit is going to be in Ottawa. City News reporter Chris Curris has the details.
Revenue has not met the current service demand levels, and while that's generally due to the pandemic, it has persisted now for almost 3 years and cost the city millions, while transit issues have turned away others. Councillor Riley Brockington tells City News if there's any hope of an improved system, there should be one focus.
The Achilles heel of OC Transpo is bus reliability.
He says the transit can go in a number of different directions on funding, but it's really about keeping current transit users and gaining new ones with routes that get them where they need to go. Chris Curry's City News.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andreacci.
The risk of freezing rain this afternoon through Smiths Falls, a little later on through Ottawa. The chances there as we see some active weather moving across southern Ontario today. Now, just in terms of temperatures, we are pretty much seasonal for today, but we'll climb to near 0 to +1 for Wednesday here in Smiths Falls. Periods of light snow expected across Smiths Falls in Ottawa through Friday. So we are getting into an active weather pattern here. The sun was really nice while it lasted. The guaranteed high for today, -6.
City News time 10:02. With federal public servants back in the office at least some of the time, how did day one go? City News reporter Shaoli Lee has that story.
The Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada represents over 65,000 federal civil servants. President Jennifer Carr says it's not totally opposed to return to office, but she alleges unions were barely consulted.
This was a blanket policy that was implemented without consultation. They actually only gave us an hour before they made the official announcement.
But other civil servants have been back at the office part-time for months now. Each department has been working on different timelines with different expectations. But while they may not have had a problem with the requirement,
I find it to be a good balance between work and life.
Even those who've returned say they'd prefer to renegotiate the arrangement.
I wish that we could only go 1 day a week, but we'll see where the government takes things.
In Ottawa, Shaoli Lee, City News.
City News time 10:03. After he was exiled from Down Under last year, Novak Djokovic made a victorious return to the Australian Open this morning. Simon Bennett has more from day 2.
Remember the big story a year ago. Novak Djokovic, at the time #1 in the world, arrived in Australia amid questions about his vaccination status. He was detained and eventually sent home. A year later, he was welcomed back.
Australian Open 4th seed, Novak Djokovic.
His opponent, Roberto Caballos Baena, never had a chance.
Game 7 match, Djokovic.
Novak's back down under, but he looks on top of the world.
It was a 6-4, 6-3, 6-love win to advance. Meanwhile, Canadians in action last night. Leylah Fernandez beat Alizé Cornet in straight sets. She gets Caroline Garcia next. The 4-seed took care of Toronto's Catherine Seebob in 65 minutes. Simon Bennett, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. We have a very busy show for you today. Lots of different guests. A little bit later in the show, we're going to be speaking with John Fraser, interim party leader of the Ontario Liberal Party and MPP for Ottawa South. We're going to be talking about this Ontario healthcare plan that the Premier and Health Minister Sylvia Jones brought down yesterday. But first, we wanted to speak with Dr. Doris Grinspun. Of course, she's the CEO of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. Good morning, Doris.
Good morning, Sam. So good to be back with you. I wish it was a better topic.
I wish it was a more interesting topic too. This is a very interesting topic. Don't misunderstand me. This Doris was big news. How did you take the news?
Well, I take the news as a disaster for Ontarians, Sam. Never ever has for-profit healthcare delivered better for the great majority of Ontarians or of the public in any country, in any place. Never. And this is of course my fourth country where I live. It always for-profit care has destroyed the health system, especially when you're talking about surgeries. And the Premier yesterday was talking about hip and knee replacements in for-profit clinics that will suction taxpayers' dollars to put in the pockets of investors, and it will suction human resources, especially with the shortages that we have in nursing and others. It's a disaster. It's a disaster, and also they will charge people as much as the Premier says no. They will offer people different goodies, even if they don't need them, and charge them extra dollars.
And let me ask you this, Dr. Grinspan. We've spoke, I can't even count how many times, many times over the last number of years. And you've asked the Premier to do something to fix healthcare in this province. He's done something. Is this something that you oppose? Is this something you've sort of spoke about it already? But you know he's trying to do something. Is there any credit to the Premier for trying something?
No, the Premier knows exactly what he needs to try. He needs to bring more human resources, in particular nurses, to our hospitals, our publicly run, not-for-profit hospitals. He needs to open the operating rooms in the hospitals 24/7, not only for an emergency, but for everything. He needs to open 24/7, like many countries have done, diagnostics by having the resources, human resources required, and the infrastructure is already there. So he would be then doing an efficiency for the system by using the infrastructure that we already have. Instead of being idle in the middle of the night, many of the operating rooms and diagnostics, they will be used 24/7. People will get their surgeries before, which we all want that, but you will save dollars, you will actually improve the state of healthcare for everybody in Ontario, not just for the few that will pay for the extra goodies in the for-profit clinics that he now wants to expand significantly in Ontario.
Critics have said, Dr. Grinspan, that maybe the Premier over the last couple of years using this pandemic to not fix the things that needed fixing, so that this solution ended up being the only way the province could go. What do you say to that?
First of all, I do not discount that anymore. You know, you create a crisis. Mike Harris did that. You create a crisis and then you say this is the solution. We cannot do anything else. However, the Premier, when he is in a room by himself or with his pillow, he knows that that's not the truth. He knows that. He also knows that even today he could fix the system if he really wanted to fix the system rather than put money in the pockets of investors, which is what he's doing, and he knows that.
So, Doris, you know, if we were to speak to the heads of hospitals in this province, are those operating rooms at full capacity? Are there doctors, as we've heard from other people, sitting around wanting to do more? And those doctors, if these clinics move forward, and it sounds like they are, going to be just spending maybe the morning at a hospital and then spending the afternoon at a clinic doing these surgeries? Is that the case? Are the
That's
hospitals...
exactly what will happen. But doctors and nurses don't grow in trees. At least I haven't seen them yet growing in trees. So if you were to open the operating rooms in the hospitals, they would need to operate there. Instead, you are correct. There will be some that will open themselves clinics I debated one on Friday in CBC National, and he left working in an ICU to become a big investor and opening clinics in Nova Scotia, in Quebec, likely already in the lineup here talking with the Premier. So, this is what you will see. This is what you see when you create a two-tier system. If the Premier moves we have no issue with cataracts in Kensington Clinic where he did the announcement and he forgot to say that clinic, the Kensington Clinic, is a not-for-profit clinic. He forgot to say that. We have no issue with that. If you want to put clinics adjacent to the hospitals in not-for-profit basis, we have no issue. We have an issue with for-profit, standalone, independent health facilities that are clinics, and when something goes wrong, first of all, they do not have an ICU. They do not have the conditions to even deal with something wrong. They put the patient in an ambulance. I have seen it. I have lived in the U.S. And they send the patient to the emergency room of the nearest hospital. Hopefully the patient gets there in time. The Premier said simple knee and hip replacements. There is no such a thing as simple knee and hip replacements. He's not a doctor. He's not a nurse. Obviously, he doesn't understand what he's doing, but he does understand that he's doing business with investors, and the question is why he is in bed with investors rather than taking care of patients the way that needs to be done for quality outcomes and for saving taxes. We will end up some paying more and getting less quality.
So, Doris,
and we will not reduce wait times. Let me tell you that for the reason you said before, because you have the same doctors or nurses choosing to be here or there. So you will not reduce wait times. In fact, and the Premier already knows that too, because I have pointed that out to them, that Nova Scotia and Quebec, that he keeps mentioning, their wait times for hip and knee replacement in those provinces are significantly higher than ours. Nova Scotia, 98 weeks, Quebec, 53 weeks, Ontario, 30 weeks. Nurses want to go from 30 weeks to 20, not to 53 like Quebec or 98 like Nova Scotia.
So let me ask you, Doris, when you think about somebody listening to us right now here on City News and they're saying, but listen, I've been waiting for a knee replacement for a very long time. If this is going to fix the problem and I use my OHIP card and not my credit card, what's the issue? There are people in this province, Doris, that are excited about this plan.
I totally understand. Sam, I totally understand. We need to improve the system, no doubt. No one needs to wait long for these surgeries. The problem is for-profit delivery will not fix the system. Will cost more, will deliver less, and will not reduce wait times. The Auditor General already spoke about the cost, and I said to you, and that's based on the Fraser Institute data, that Nova Scotia and Quebec that went this route are doing much worse than Ontario. And let me tell to patients that are waiting, I am afraid about the safety in those for-profit clinics, because to make profits, you need to cut corners. So the patient may not end up with the OHIP card, although he will or she will, when they offer extras. And of course, if a doctor offers you an extra, a different knee or a different type of procedure, materials, then it will cost more. Yes, like the minister said, they need to tell you what's the basic and the rest you can pay. Well, the rest you can pay, but you don't know. It's like when I take a car to be fixed, I don't know if what they're telling me, I just trust the person. You will trust a doctor, but this is a doctor that is not working in a public system, making the extra buck by selling you whatever. This is a doctor that is working with investors. And when you work with investors, the first legal accountability you have is to the investors, not to the patient. So they will cut corners. They may not have enough nurses there and have technicians working with the doctors. All kinds of things they will cut corners to make extra money for the investors. So would I go to one of those? No, I wouldn't. For eye surgery, if I need, would I go to one of the not-for-profit clinics? Yes, not-for-profit clinics for cataract. We did support that at the time when the Kensington opened, but no, we would not support for-profit, and I wouldn't recommend to any of my friends or family members to go to a for-profit because I know that they will cut corners. I have seen it. I have seen it in other countries where I work, and it will happen here.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Grinspan. Always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doris Grinspan, joining us today. Learned a lot from her, as always, CEO of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. Our discussion regarding healthcare in Ontario will continue through the day. We've got a number of guests coming your way. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Union of Taxpayers Association. We're going to be speaking about the taxation for CRA and the union, what they're looking to do for the future. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. Into the deep unknown. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
I did it.
I need it.
The hero gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
I am Gagwege. My name means everything.
Tom Longboats!
I am Wolf Clan, Onondaga Nation. I've run many different races. I've run to survive and to be free. I've run to win for honor.
His people might be lazy, but this one's damn fast.
My people respected our runners, people who carried important messages from village to village.
I need a guide to the next post. Dispatch carrier, sir. I can get you there.
God's sakes, man, slow down. Who do you think I am, Tom Longboat?
No, sir. I am.
Running makes me feel alive. It's everything.
Tom Longboat was the first Indigenous person to win the Boston Marathon. He ran his way to international fame and became an inspiration to generations of athletes.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, last week we spoke with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation regarding the request from the CRA employees through their union for an increase. We wanted today to get caught up with Mark Briere, National President of the Union of Taxation Employees. Hello, Mark.
Hi, good morning.
Mark, walk me through what the CRA employees are hoping for.
When it comes to wages?
Yes.
Well, first of all, the first thing is we're seeking a wage adjustment. We are using comparatives, in the federal public service. This is our market. And so the Canada Revenue Agency, prior to that, was called the Canada Customs and Revenue Agency when it got created in 1999 and for some 4 years. And then it got split in two, being the Canada Revenue Agency and the Canada Border Services Agency. So at the time, they were basically having the same compensation, the same classification. Now, the two agencies went on and created their own classification system. And through this process and several rounds of bargaining, a wage gap got created between workers of the two groups that are doing similar jobs. One is administering the Excise Tax Act, and we are administering the Income Tax Act. And the wage gap is 9%. It's been piling up. It's up to 9%. So it is an historical demand that we always put at every single round of bargaining. So it's there to start. It would be applicable when the contract expired on November 1st, 2021. And then we're seeking for a 3-year contract. That's what's on the table for now. A wage, after the market adjustment, a wage increase of 4.5%, effective November 1st, 2021, and then 8% for the 2 following years. And these were tabled, doing all the research at the time, and this has been going on for more than a year. So it was, right in the middle of the skyrocketing inflation and soaring prices, which is still the case right now. It's still over 6%. So that's our proposal.
So, Mark, we know that, obviously that adds up to just under 30%, which seems, you say to the average Canadian, a 30% pay increase, it seems very high. The 9%, how did it get to be that much? Why wasn't it negotiated earlier than this so that gap wouldn't be 9% today?
It's not because we didn't try, it's because they don't want to listen. They don't want to recognize it. The government is fighting us. It's been at least 3 or 4 rounds of bargaining that we've been asking for that wage adjustment. So
what makes you think that if they haven't done this incrementally up until now, that they're going to accept 30% over 3 years? What gets you to that place?
I'm not saying that they will agree to that, but we're not giving up on our 9% because it's a fact. We do the comparison and we lay it out, but the government won't have it. The agency won't have it. Treasury Board won't have it.
So that's
if you don't fight, if you don't for something that you believe in life, well, especially through your union, you might as well do something else.
Well, so that's the pay part. Can we talk about other benefits, or is part of this also the whole conversation of return to office?
Well, this is just the last straw. This is important for a lot of people, and it's not so important for the members. We've got over 4,000 members out of 37,000 that we represent that work on the premises already at the CRA during the pandemic because of their duties. It's a requirement. Most of our members work from home because they were able to get the job done. At the beginning, because they were forced to go home, but now there was no rush to come back to the office because the job got done. We delivered, even on top of our regular work administering taxes, our members helped deliver the emergency benefits when we were asked in record time to the tune of $210 billion. So I think that we've proven most of the job can be done at distance.
Mark, we're coming up.
It doesn't make sense.
Mark, we're coming up to taxation season. Is there potentially the chance that employees will not be working this tax season?
There's a fair chance, absolutely. Unfortunately, this is the third round of negotiations in a row that we see no progress at the bargaining table. And maybe, I don't know if your listeners know that, but we've been without a contract 8 of the last 10 years prior to this negotiation. So it took 4 years after the expiry of the previous contracts, twice in a row. We're just fed up. We're exasperated. We feel that we delivered when we were asked to, even outside of our normal mandate. And now, there's a lot of things that are contentious at the table. The hours of work that we got over 9,000 people working in call centers. This is complicated. The government wants people to work on the weekend, but they don't want to pay for it. But people should be paid. We want to protect our members from contracting out in the private sector. We want seniority to be considered. There's a lot of things on the table. Plus, we want to discuss telework. And we want it to make sense. So we're not against having a discussion, but the government just wants to rule, and they don't want to listen, and they're showing a lot of disrespect.
So is there is there a chance that Canadians will be filing their taxes expecting that tax refund, and it may be delayed then, Mark?
It's a possibility, but if you look at it, at the timelines, we need to go to the Public Interest Commission hearings. It's like legislation. We need to follow it. The last date of the year, the first one is January 27, the last one is February 20th. It takes at least a month to get the report of the commission, which brings us, maybe March 20th. It can take a bit longer, and we need to wait 7 days after getting the report to be in a legal strike position if we do have a strike mandate, which I'm convinced we'll get a very strong strike mandate. So you're not looking before the end of March. So if I'm one of your listeners, I would file my taxes if you're expecting a reimbursement. File it sooner. File it in February and March. If you wait in April, you may be in trouble. You may wait for your reimbursement. That's correct.
And let me ask you, and because it is unfortunate. I mean, it's to think 30% just seems like, you can understand how 30% is a lot of money, Mark. When Canadians there's some Canadians that are just not even being able to put food on the table.
Well, I get that, but there are some of our members on the low end that are also attending food banks even though they got a full-time job. Not everybody that makes $100K a year here. Our average is like about $60,000 in Ottawa, in Montreal, in Toronto, in Vancouver. Is that so much money, especially for those who are single? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. And our members are feeling the blunt also of the soaring prices of gas and what have you, the grocery and everything. So I think that we deserve to be compensated for the work we do, and we saved the government during the pandemic because Service Canada was not able to basically deliver the emergency benefits. They didn't have the infrastructure or neither the staff, the level of staffing. So without a contract for 3.5 years, we took the high road and we said, okay, you know what? We'll put our differences together. We'll do the right thing for the population because that's what we're there for. We're very proud of it. And we're just very, very disappointed and frustrated that they seem to have forgot what we did. Mm-hmm. And it's like it never happened. And now we're being treated with the same disrespect as in the past. And at one point, it needs to stop. And I'm just going to say it's not normal for people, whoever they are, private sector, public sector, unionized or not, to wait 4 years to get contracts, 5 years for wage increases. This is not acceptable.
Oh, I agree with you there. Absolutely.
That's why we're doing what we're doing. I don't want to go on strike.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that.
Do anything. The Treasury Board is like a bully. So you know what? There's only one way to deal with it. And then it's like to take us seriously, if that's what it takes, and bring the public attention. Hopefully they're going to wake up and come to the bargaining table and expedite a serious negotiation so we can get on with our lives.
Mark, I really appreciate your time today. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but let's connect again and keep talking about this, okay? You've certainly brought up a lot of really good points today, and certainly I agree with you. I think that's a very long time and disrespectful to people that serve this country. Thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate it. Nice talking to you.
Mark Briere joining us today, National President of the Union of Taxation Employees. Certainly a story that we're going to keep on our radar here at City News. Stay with us, everyone.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
There we go. Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Traffic and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 17th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, minus 11. In Smith Falls, it is minus 7. And here's what's making news right now. Canada's annual inflation rate slowed to 6.3% last month, down from 6.8% in November. The federal agency's latest consumer price index released today says inflation slowed in December, largely due to a decrease in gas prices. Lower gas prices were offset by increases in mortgage interest costs, clothing and footwear, and personal care supplies and equipment. StatCan says the average inflation rate for 2022 was 6.8%. The Ottawa Catholic Board is set to debate whether it needs to hire a Jewish equity coach. Trustee Neely Kaplan-Mirth brought up the idea after a number of Jewish groups endorsed the idea, and a petition received over 1,000 signatures. There have been a number of incidents in schools, like 2 students charged with hate crimes at Sir Robert Borden High after an incident there. Now, the motion is appealing to the board to have a stronger support for Jewish students' well-being at schools. The meeting kicks off at 7 p.m. tonight. City News time is 10:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thanks so much for joining us here on City News. We wanted to get caught up today with Sylvie Bigras from the Lower Town Community Association. She's the president there. Hi, Sylvie.
Good morning.
Sylvie, we know that the Lower Town area certainly has a number of social services, whether it be shelters or drop-in centers. It is a lot of pressure on the residents and sometimes can impact things like tourism as well. Talk to me a little bit about your hope in terms of social services when it comes to Lower Town.
You're absolutely right. There is an impact on the community. You know, residents have been telling us for years that they see some issues around safety. For example, children being afraid to walk to school because there's 3 schools, in the general area of some of the larger shelters. They're worried about playing outside in parks because of needles being found, and other things. And you talked about tourism, and we hear from the businesses in the market that sometimes that there is an impact as well. So overall, we've decided to make 2023 our year to make this conversation more public, to say, okay, we have a problem, it's impacting our community, but also, more importantly, it's impacting the people who are vulnerable and who receive care. And in my conversations with people who are experts in this area, or at mental health at the Royal Ottawa Hospital as an example, they say that the larger the service delivery model, the less impact, the less success you have. And they're saying that smaller scale models that are not side by side and all concentrated in one area have much higher levels of success. And we've seen samples of those models in other cities and other countries. And so that's what we're advocating for. We're saying, let's talk about this important issue. Let's see how we can help. And we're advocating for smaller models with each of our 24 wards taking responsibility for sharing the load, for caring for our vulnerable.
And Sylvie, we've certainly seen some of the shelters create, whether it be transitional housing or supportive housing outside of that lower town area. We know there's, some of the Canada has a couple. We know that the Maryville Road area. We know that Montreal Road. So this is happening. One of the sort of devil's advocate sort of comments about this is sometimes you're taking people away from their community that they've built. They've got their friends and their family, in many ways consider their street family, their family, away from them if they were to be housed or have services outside of that area. What do you say to that argument, Sylvie?
Well, a few things. Firstly, I want to say that we've had many conversations and meetings with the providers. They're wonderful. They work hard. In some cases, they're overwhelmed by the demand. And we're really impressed with the Shepherds, for example, who have 3 or 4 locations outside of Lower Town. But what we're finding is that there's a bit of pushback when these well-intentioned providers say, well, we want to open somewhere and we want to, and then the community they want to go to says, well, not here. We don't need this. We don't want it. And it's, we don't have people with those issues, right? And so by having this public conversation, we want to help the providers in establishing service models outside. And we're saying, you know what, we have 24 wards, and if each ward takes on part of the responsibility, then I think it's going to be shared and it's going to be more successful. On the fact that they say people live here, well, you know what, I've been in this neighborhood for over 30 years. And for sure, if you provide all the services here, people end up moving here. But what we've found is that drug addiction, mental health, poverty, homelessness is not limited to Lower Town and the Bard Market. People fall through the cracks all over the city, and then they come here to get services. But we want them to get the services where they fall. So for sure, we're looking at a long-term process where we're not going to say to everyone who's in a shelter in Lower Town, oh, by the way, you're moving to South Ottawa or Canada or something. What we're saying is let's start by serving the people in their communities. And I think also, I've actually gotten to know quite a few homeless people. There's a homeless advocate I've gotten to know very well who used to be homeless, who's now sheltered, but, is really representing them, who says, if you give somebody a safe space with a key to a door that locks and it's on transit, they'll be happy to go a little bit further afield. They just want a place that they can call their own. Mm-hmm. So I think that there would be some appetite for people moving out of the area, but I think also we have to start small outside of our community and then help the people who are there. And eventually, as we find people transitional housing and take them out of shelters, it will hopefully have an impact.
And we know that housing first model, we know that model works, Sylvia. And I don't know, Sylvia, if you know that I worked at the Ottawa Mission for close to a decade. I shared
No,
here,
I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow.
so I have some sort of inside look, if you will, an internal look as to what that looks like. And we know that housing first works, and especially if you provide those supports, and it can be something as simple as someone checking in once a day, especially when there's some mental health concerns and you're looking for hygiene and proper nutrition and connection and health care and all of those pieces. You're right, people will move out a little bit further. They will have an opportunity to do that, but we can't just move people without the supports, was my earlier point too.
Absolutely. And what we're saying is that we do want to move people with the proper supports, but if every ward takes on a responsibility, in some cases, it could be the community resource center that already exists that the City of Ottawa supports in all of the wards, adding a little bit. It could be that ward really working with a developer that is building something to say, 10% would be great if you could make it rent to income, or if we could do it as transitional affordable housing, whatever. It's just changing the conversation conversation around being more proactive. And I totally agree. Housing first is what everyone tells us here. The people who are homeless or those who are their advocates are saying we really need a safe space for them to go to.
Sylvie, how will you share your message with Mayor Mark Sutcliffe and the new councillors and the councillors that have been around the table before? How will you share this message with them?
Our first thing is making this conversation public and citywide, and thank you for helping us do that by having this chat today with you. You know, you're sharing our message. So that's the first thing, is sharing the conversation that we have issues, that the vulnerable need more focused help, that we want to help, but we also want the rest of the city to help us. So it's having that conversation. I find that in being involved with meetings and all kinds of other initiatives over the past few years, that things move very slowly. And it's time for us, I think, to be a bit more proactive, a bit more action-oriented and say, okay, let's roll up our sleeves, sit down together, and map out a plan. I think that the city councillors will be on board. You know, helping people who fall through the cracks is just one of the basic tenets of a democratic society, and I know they all want to do so. And Stephanie Plante is amazing. She's really sharing this message with her fellow councillors and working with them. You know, they're the ones who know what the options are and what their communities have and don't have, and I think that she's going to take the ball and run with it.
We're speaking with Sylvie Begras, of course, the president of the Lower Town Community Association, speaking about action, Sylvie. What action, if we're listening today to this conversation and somebody's thinking, okay, what do you want me to do? What should we do?
I would like every ward to take an inventory of all of their unique spaces that they may have that are perhaps being underutilized. I've been joking with a few people with whom I've been working on this about a convent tour. I say, you know, how many convents do we have? How occupied are they? Who owns them? I love the idea of partnering with a convent to say, okay, you've got 60 rooms and you've got 5 nuns. I'm joking here. I don't know. I mean, this is not my background. I'm just a volunteer. But we really would like to know what spaces do exist, what buildings could be easily transformed into a transitional space. I'm just trying to move us down the road a little bit more quickly than we are, you know. So that's the first thing, is inventory. The second thing is, once you have that inventory, is to work with all of these shelters who right now are housing people who are employed. That we've heard of personal care, personal support workers who are in shelters. There are people who are working very low income in the service industry who can't afford an apartment or can't find one. These are the people who don't need that, you know, that lived trauma support or addiction or mental health issues. They just need a safe space, right? And they can't afford the current spaces that we have in the city of Ottawa. So inventory, move the people who don't need those complex services, to me, are steps 1 and 2.
Really appreciate your time today. Sylvie Begras joining us today from the Lower Town Community Association. Let's keep talking, Sylvie, okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time today, and we'll follow this story in a number of different ways. I'd love to. Our producers will reach out to the Mission and the Sheps and the Shepherds of Good Hope, and think about conversations we can have with others as well in terms of this theme, because I think it's an important one. When we come back, we're going to spend some time with Dan Champagne. Now, you might remember that name, Dan Champagne, of course, from the CHEO Foundation. He was involved in media for many, many years. He's going to chat with us today about somebody that his name may not have hit your radar, but you're going to want to learn all about him. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll tell you about a new martial arts community that just opened up in the East End, and we'll tell you how they have made things really, really unique. And leading up to the Ottawa Home and Remodeling Show, we're going to tell you how you can furnish your entire home with just $1,000. That's right, I said $1,000. Also, we'll introduce you to a rare disease patient who is looking for support from the Ottawa community. All that and more on Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for spending time with us here on City News. We wanted to share the story of Shane Hawley with you today. This is a name that you may not recognize, but as soon as we tell you his story, you're going to understand why it's important to this community. And I've invited Dan Champagne to join me today on City News. Hi, Dan.
Hi, and what a treat it is to hear your voice again.
Oh, aren't you sweet? And of course, everybody knows Dan Champagne. Dan, of course, with the CHEO Foundation for many years, a well-deserved retirement, my friend. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. So far, so good.
So far, so good. You've slid right into retirement, have you? That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, listen, we know that there's been some sad news in terms of a dear friend of ours, and many people in the community may not know the name Shane Hawley, but they should. And tell us a little bit about Shane and how you met Shane.
Shane is the son of Max Keeping, and of course Max was an icon with CJOH and later CTV Ottawa for literally decades. And when Max was sick, most people might really got to know Shane a little bit better because he was always the guy by Max's side or speaking on behalf of the family, as cancer was rendering Max unable to speak for himself. And he was quite literally, Shane and his wife Emily were at Max's bedside, and when it came time for the final days for Max, we all moved him over to Shane and Emily's house, and very great couple, very loyal son, but he back sort of May-June-ish started to feel a little bit wonky, and by July was brought to the hospital in Kingston, diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. But if it wasn't really for bad luck, poor Shane wouldn't have any luck at all. He's actually been in hospital since he arrived there in July in Kingston. 3 or 4 times into ICU. He's currently in intensive care once again and intubated again. battling his third bout of sepsis. So he's had a pretty bumpy road.
He's had a very bumpy road, and you know, you've made some really good points about this couple and how they've supported Max, of course, in his last number of years, and you know, they really have given so much to this community, and you know, we're thinking about them today, and Dan, you decided to sort of take that next step, and you created a GoFundMe campaign. Tell me why.
I went to visit Shane about 2 weeks ago. I wanted to talk to Ian and Emily just to make sure that they're comfortable with me doing this, because it's not something that you just sort of assume. And the challenge for them, of course, is that Shane has been in hospital since July, and his employer does have just a short-term disability insurance. But it's obviously nowhere near what you're used to making, and Emily works as often as she can, but when your husband's in intensive care and on an intubator, you try not to necessarily be anywhere but there. And she's been by his side and working and juggling all those balls that go together. So it's been a tough road for them. And you know, I think all of us, to a degree, are just a paycheck or two away from you know, speed wobble. And so the whole intention for this is to help them catch up to the last 6 months of their life, and he still has a long road ahead. I believe in my heart of hearts that they will have their life back. And I keep telling Emily, someday, you know, you'll look back on this and remember a terrible time, but it will be behind you, and you will have your life back. So this fundraiser is a little bit like a parking meter. We're all collectively getting some money and putting it in there and buying them time, and helping. This keeps them in their house. This keeps the wolves away from the door and the bills paid. And really, anybody who has gone through any form of financial stress know that it's terrible. Now, when you have the compound effect of financial stress and what these two are going through right now, it's overwhelming. And so that's the whole idea behind this fundraiser. I'm asking the community to do exactly what Max asked the community to do a million times. And so far, so good, by the way. This GoFundMe has just cracked $8,000 this morning, and I'm thrilled.
Oh, that's fantastic to see that the community is responding to this request. And you know, you think about the conversation you and I are having, Dan. I can hear Max having this conversation about so many people in our community, and he was the interviewer and interviewing people in our community. So I can hear him in my brain. I don't know about you. Dan, are you there? Oh, we might have lost Dan. He is traveling in somewhere very nice and warm right now, so maybe the sand and the sun got to Dan. But we're gonna try Dan back again. And but an important conversation today in terms of Shane Hawley and of course the son of the late Max Keeping, facing so many different challenges right now in terms of his health, and his beautiful wife Emily really trying to keep it together during this time. So we're sending them lots of love. And we're hoping to hear from Dan again. If we don't hear from Dan again, that's okay. We've sent you the message today in regards to the GoFundMe campaign. You can go to GoFundMe and type in the last name or the name Shane Hawley, and Hawley is Holley. And Dan Champagne, we have you back again. I was worried that maybe the sun and the sand got to you, Dan.
My second margarita, maybe. Yeah.
Exactly. I was just giving the GoFundMe information so that people would know where to go to follow the campaign and hopefully contribute.
There'd be a lot of people listening that have, you know, when you harken back to Max, sometimes when Call Display came out, you'd think twice about answering the phone if Max phoned you, because he was always going to put the touch on you for something. He was
exactly.
he wasn't the least bit, ashamed to do it. Boy, he was a pretty relentless guy when it came to looking out for other people. I remember one day he phoned me and he said he needed, I forget, it was $3,000 or $5,000, and he needed it by the end of the day, and he wanted my Kiwanis Club to look after it. And I won't bore you with the whole story, but he was responding to a letter that he got from a grandmother on behalf of her adult daughter. And this lady had tried everything she could think of to try and get support for her daughter. And in desperation, when she didn't know where the heck to go, she wrote a letter to Max Keeping, because she had dinner with him every day. You know? So that's just the kind of guy that he was, and it's lovely that the community is rallying around his son.
And speaking about dinner with Max, within probably, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 months of Max's life, he did come to dinner at my parents' place. They were friends, and Shane was there, and the five of us had a beautiful dinner together. And I'm thinking about when the last time I saw Max in person, we were saying goodbye to them at the door, and he sort of grabbed my hands and he started to dance with me, and Shane said, he's wanting to have one last dance with you, Sam. And
that would entirely be him. Yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me that he would go either. He was a pretty big deal around town to everybody except himself.
Yes, true. And Shane was so good when we lost my father. Shane was also working in doing limousine drives and that type of thing, and then he made sure that my family and I got safely to the funeral. And I always think about Shane when I think about that. So we're thinking about Shane Hawley and his beautiful wife Emily today. Dan Champagne, thanks so much for bringing this campaign to our attention. We're going to watch it grow, and I'll make a commitment to make a gift right after the show today, Dan.
Phil, thank you. Thank you, as always, for the privilege of speaking to your audience. And please do what you can and share the information.
Thank you so much, Dan Champagne, joining us today. Another great guy in our community. Appreciate his time. Listen, we have a very busy show for you right after the 11 o'clock news. The one, the only, I'm so excited, Chris Neal is going to join us. So Chris is going to talk about this great skate park that he has in the Stittsville area called Iceland. We're going to learn all about it. We've got the weather now that can actually support this beautiful skate park. So Chris Neal's going to give us all of the details. Of course, former Ottawa Senator. We all love Chris Neal, so we're going to get a chance to chat with him in a little bit. Andrea Friedman's also going to join us a little bit later. She's the president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Ottawa. We're going to be talking about the call for a Jewish equity coach at the Ottawa Carleton District School Board. A very interesting concept. We're going to speak with Andrea Friedman about that. And then John Fraser's going to be here. He's been a busy guy over the last 24 hours as the province, of course, the federal, Premier Doug Ford has brought down the healthcare decision in regards to privatization. So we're going to be speaking with John Fraser, interim party leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, and get his take on this plan by the Premier. And James Powell's going to join us as well. He's the director of the Historical Society of Ottawa. We always take a look back at what's happening in our city, and we're going to talk a little bit about the connection to the Netherlands. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 17th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, minus 11. In Smiths Falls, it is minus 7. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. So is anything starting to feel any less expensive? The national inflation rate showed a bit of a moderation in December to end 2022. Mike Eppel reports from the City News Business Center.
Well, the December inflation rate did cool to 6.3%, and the core reading, stripping out food and energy prices, came down to about 5%. Those numbers are still well above what the Bank of Canada wants to see, around 2%. That means next week we're likely going to see another 0.25% interest rate increase in the Bank of Canada's policy tightening cycle, an 8th interest rate hike, and then maybe moving on pause for the next few months to see what all of these interest rate increases are actually doing to the economy, with many economists factoring in the likelihood of a recession sometime in 2023. In December, we did see grocery prices still up 11% year over year. Rents were on the rise to record levels. Mortgage costs were up as well. A moderating effect from gasoline, which dropped 13% month to month and well below the peak prices that we saw last summer. At the City News Business Center, I'm Mike Eppel.
And we do weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley. Here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Increasing cloud today, the chance of some freezing precipitation later on, periods of snow as well, and that takes us into Wednesday with some periods of light snow for the early part of the day. And then again Thursday, Friday, another system impacting us. We're going to see a few centimeters of snow both days heading into the weekend. The guaranteed high today, -6.
City News time 11:02. A court appearance is scheduled today for 2 people accused in the shooting death of an OPP constable last month. City News reporter Alex Bloomfield has the story.
25-year-old Randall McKenzie and 30-year-old Brandy Stewart Perry are charged with first-degree murder in the killing of Constable Greg Pershala. The OPP officer was shot near Hagersville on December 27th when he attended a call for a vehicle in the ditch. Police have said Pershala was ambushed as he approached the vehicle and had no chance to defend himself. McKenzie had a warrant for breach of bail conditions on assault charges in Hamilton at the time of the killing. Today's court appearance is part of the bail phase of this case. It's set for 1:30 this afternoon in the small town of Cayuga, about 15 minutes from where the killing took place. Alex Bloomfield, City News.
Canada's alcohol industry says warning labels about health risk on booze bottles are unnecessary. The president of Beer Canada says the industry already informs people to drink responsibly using voluntary health warning labels or pictographs on packaging dealing with warnings against drinking while pregnant and driving while intoxicated. This comes after a new report by the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction says the warning labels could inform consumers about serious health risks, including cancer. The report also says that labels could show the number of standard drinks in a container and the benefit of limiting consumptions to 2 drinks a week. A portion of Bridge Street in Almont is closed to traffic for safety concerns. The municipality says the section from Mill to High Street will be closed for the short term, and it will be announced when the bridge is reopened. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I know one person that's very happy that it's chilly outside, and that is Chris Neal, former Ottawa Senator. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Congratulations on the incredible Iceland and what that's brought to our community. For those that may not be familiar with Iceland, tell all about it.
Well, I've always had a vision. Like one of my favorite movies growing up was Field of Dreams, the baseball movie. So anyway, I wanted to try to create something like that. And I had 90 acres in Stittsville. So anyway, we just, me and two buddies, we started Iceland skating trails. And, every year, like we opened last year was our first year. And, it was awesome to see the people coming through. And, we've added to it this year. The trails are longer. Just you learn from experience from your first year to try to make it more feasible for us to operate. And so there's a lot of moving parts, but it's fun when you're standing around at nighttime with all the lights on and all the smile on the kids' faces. It's worth every effort you put into building this thing.
So is this your field of dreams, Chris?
It is my field of dreams. So, the rink's set right in the middle of all these big tall pines, and we got lights, and when the snow is coming down, it really is magical.
And I can only imagine you were a little bit nervous as we were receiving some of that warmer weather heading into January and around the holidays. Were you holding your breath a little bit for this season?
Well, we opened the trails last year on January 14th, and this year we were January 15th. So we were a day off. So at the end of the day, Mother Nature usually gives you the 6 to 8 weeks of really cold weather. And, it's obviously for us, when you're running, trying to build ice, you do need the cold weather. And we had a good base down before Christmas, and then we didn't lose it all, but we lost a bunch of it. But we were able to build it up pretty quick, which was awesome.
What I love about Iceland, Chris, is that, you can picture families there. It can be a great date night. It can be great for friends getting together. It just really is for everyone in the community.
Well, it is, and we say that all the time. Like, like for tonight, for instance, we have a private event there with Roger Nielsen House. So, families can bring their kids out. If they're in a wheelchair, they can push them down the path. And these are kids that don't get an opportunity to do stuff like this. So, for me, it's a special night for me, with Roger Nielsen House families and, coming out and, it's the kids are sometimes they're in a wheelchair and they can look up at nighttime and see the lights, and where normally they're in their room or just staying in their house, they don't get the opportunity to do a lot of activities that a lot of kids get to do.
Just when I thought I couldn't adore you anymore, Chris, that's so beautiful that you're giving that opportunity. It doesn't surprise me at all, but it's quite beautiful. And so tell us, what can we expect? What times are you open? How can we get tickets?
Well, you can just go on Iceland.com to book your tickets and stuff, and everything's online, waivers, everything. So which is great for us. That it can all be. Then you just show up, you scan your ticket, and you come in, and you get to experience what I get to experience every day when I'm there. And it's a beautiful piece of property, and skating through the forest, and you see all deer tracks. Sometimes you see deer, owls, you name it. So it really is awesome. But you can see her when we're open. Obviously, if there's a big snowstorm coming in, it takes a little longer to get open. So last year there was a couple of days where we weren't able to open on a Friday because of weather, but we worked hard and we got it open for Saturday. So it's just it's weather permitted, and it's for us. We got a good crew that works on site that helps try to facilitate so everyone can come out and experience it.
That's fantastic. Do you ever jump on that Zamboni yourself?
I do. I actually I try to get on as much as possible. I definitely drove it a lot more last year. It's everyone. I don't know what it is with the Zambonis. Everyone wants to drive one, so it's a lot of our staff. We give them the opportunity, and if they've never driven it before, we'll let them start on the trails before we let them get into the rink, because in the rink it's like bumper cars. You gotta snug the wall, and it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does your family think, Chris, about this this incredible Iceland?
Well, my kids love it. It's an opportunity. They work at it too, and my youngest doesn't yet. He wants to, but he just tries at the canteen and stuff. And anyway, my sister-in-law runs the canteen, so it is really a family-oriented business. And I have two business partners, Jared Gibbons and Steve Beck, and they have kids. They partake in it, and we have other students hired that are stoking fires and you name it. So it's trying to give back to our community and hiring some youth and get them out and get them off devices and get them out being active and that fresh air, and it's great for them.
Mm-hmm. There is no one that's ever played for our Ottawa Senators that were more passionate than you. I can still see you. You'd have a scrap on the ice. You'd look up at us like, hey, was that good, you guys?
Yeah.
I can still see it.
Yeah, well, I used to do that to let my mom know I was all right when she was at home watching on TV.
Oh, that's funny.
Then when my mom passed away, I just kept doing it in her honor. And, I loved every second of it. I wore that jersey. I don't think there's a player in the organization that wore that jersey as proud as I did. And, they believed in me at a young age. And, it was one of those things, every time I put that jersey on, I wanted to give it my all.
And you did. And 1 month from today, you probably don't even know this. I know it because I've got tickets for that night. February 17th, I'm going to be in the stands, and you'll hear me probably because I'll be yelling pretty loud because I'm so proud of you. February 17th, tell me what that retirement of your jersey will mean.
Well, it truly is an honor, with no expectations at all. I don't, I didn't play the way I did or do what I do in the community for that recognition. And, but for people to, put me up on that pedestal with Alfie and Philly and, and before Frank Finnegan, that's up there. That's an unbelievable company that I'm going to the rafters with. And, it's something, I was very emotional. I kind of told myself I was reading off a teleprompter. It was pretty funny. But anyway, it's awesome. It really is, and it's something like I get choked up even talking about it. But for me to be up with the likes of those guys and play my whole career with Ottawa and still work with the organization and how the organization's treated me over these years has been incredible. And it's I can't say enough about it. I'm very blessed and fortunate that I got to do a job that I love to do, and not a lot of people get to do that. So for me, it truly is a blessing.
There is no one I've ever heard talk about the name Chris Neil or talk about your play without, recognizing the community service that you've done in this community. And you mentioned Rogers House, and I know there's lots you did quietly as well, Chris. I know about a lot of things you did that didn't make front page news, and I think those are the moments that people really realize that how passionate you were about this community. Take me to February 17th. Take me to Center Ice. What's that going to be like?
Oh, it's going to be emotional. I think my whole town of Flusherton's coming down for it. So it's whenever you got close friends and family in attendance, and which will be a lot of the building, which is awesome. But for me, it'll be an emotional night. Obviously, I touched on it earlier with my mom passing away. My mom was the backbone of our family, and she did a lot with me to push me to where I got to. And obviously, I'll be thinking of her that night, and so it's going to be an emotional night for me, and but exciting night as well. And I think for ex-teammates coming back and be able to be around, and that's it was like with Wade Redden when they put him in the Ring of Honor earlier on. last month. It's like a homecoming when we all get together, and that was our group when we played, when we were winning President's Cups, and we were a family, and we still are, and that's I always say sports in general, it's friendships that last a lifetime, and I've been very fortunate that I played as long as I did, and I've been able to meet tremendous people, incredible people that helped me in my journey along my way, right from my very first year. A guy like Wade Redden, taking me under his wing and helping me get involved in the community, and that was first and foremost with our group, is being involved in the community and giving back to the community. Hockey was secondary, and I learned from the guys before me, and I've been able to pass it on to the guys that have come after me, and that's just the way the hockey world is.
Well, it's going to be emotional on February the 17th, and you have me emotional today. I'm tearing up because I think it's going to be a beautiful day for our community. I cannot wait for this game. I cannot wait to see you center ice once again. Chris Neal, thank you so much, and congratulations about Iceland. And I'm hoping today we've inspired everybody to visit this year.
Well, thanks for having me on, and like I said, I look forward to seeing you at the game, and whoever else is at the building, because it's going to be an emotional and fun-filled night for me, for sure.
I'll be the one with the tissues, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Chris Neal joining us today, former Ottawa Senator number 25, the one and the only Chris Neal joining us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
It was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally, and that's when I first saw Wilf, and I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
for joining us on City News. Appreciate it very much. Andrea Friedman, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Ottawa, and I have had many conversations over the last number of months regarding the anti-Semitism that happens in this city, and it is heartbreaking. There has been a call for a Jewish equity coach at the Ottawa Carleton District School Board because there's been a recent incident there. We wanted to get caught up with Andrea today. Hi, Andrea.
Oh, hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. Where did the idea for a Jewish equity coach come from?
It came from teachers themselves who identified this as a need that would really help in a number of different capacities to help the Ottawa Carleton District School Board fight the anti-Semitism that is currently quite prevalent in many of their schools.
And what would this coach do? Would they be working directly with teachers or with students or everyone?
They'd be working with everyone. By having an experienced educator fill that role, it serves a number of purposes. First, it represents an authentic Jewish voice within the board's human rights and equity framework. That particular educator can facilitate training and education on anti-Semitism and Holocaust education. They'll be able to make lesson plans so that it's not just them doing the teaching, but other teachers can as well. And really, they'll serve as a much-needed resource for administrators as they continue to learn what is and isn't anti-Semitic, how to unpack it, and how to teach kids about it to prevent future incidences.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that exists in other communities, or would this be unique to Ottawa?
No, equity coaches definitely exist. It's definitely within the board's purview to do this. So, for example, they have a Black equity coach and an Indigenous equity coach. Each position would be structured slightly differently to meet the unique needs of that particular community.
And we know that two youth have been charged after an incident at an Ottawa Carleton District Board school. It's heartbreaking. I don't really want to talk about that particular school, but I do want to talk about the fact that charges were laid. Andrea, was this an important part of this story?
I think it is, and we really appreciate the terrific work done by the Ottawa Police Services to investigate this and to determine that it was appropriate to charge two of the teens involved with serious crimes. Hopefully, this will be an opportunity for those two students to educate themselves and to behave and act differently going forward. I also hope that it's a deterrent for other schools, for other students, I should say, who really believe that these types of things are funny and that they're harmless, because they're not. They're incredibly painful, and they're also against the law. I also hope it's a wake-up call to the Ottawa Carleton District School Board. When things get so bad in your schools that the police have to charge two of your students, you're not doing what you need to be doing.
Absolutely. I think I'll be honest with you. I know about the incident and I know some details, but I was surprised charges were laid because of the age of the individuals. But I do think it's a strong message, because a lot of young people, and we've seen this with celebrities, we've seen this with actually Prince Harry thinking it was funny to dress up in a certain way in so-called costume. I think there is a lesson for everyone here, just not youth, Andrea.
There is a lesson for everyone. You said it perfectly, Sam. Thank you.
What do you want us to know, Andrea, about what the Jewish community has gone through, especially in the last year or so?
I think it's important to understand what the hate looks like, because it's too easy to dismiss as a joke, or I was trying to be ironic. But Jewish students have been threatened with gas chambers. They've been given Nazi salutes. They've been subjected to swastikas, which, as you well know, is a symbol of hate. It's a genocidal symbol that represents the murder of 6 million Jews. And they experience it in peer-to-peer social media posts where they post things like "kill the Jews" on it, or really offensive slurs to the Jewish people. It's hurtful, it's harmful, and it's caused deep trauma to Jewish students, but also their families who are struggling to cope with this and determine how to talk to their kids about anti-Semitism, and to encourage them to continue to bravely come forward if they experience it, knowing that it's going to make life a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm. And Andrea, it's no surprise to you that an Ottawa Carleton District School Board trustee, Dr. Nilly Kaplan-Mirth, has received absolutely vile communications, emails, threats to her life. And, we see that, a threat to life of any other sort of group seems to be taken much more seriously. And it just seems like we had her on the air last week, and it seems like she's going to Ottawa Police, and she doesn't feel like she's getting the kind of action that there would be if there was a threat on, a member of Parliament's life, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, the hate that enriched the pale and unacceptable for any elected official. It is completely despicable. You can disagree with somebody's policy positions, but to attribute it to their religion, to threaten their life, to threaten the lives of their family is completely unacceptable. And what we need is more people to speak out. There's a famous quote from Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor, where he said, "The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference." Mm-hmm. It's really good people standing by and not taking the necessary actions that are required for society to correct course.
Mm-hmm. Ironically, we shared a similar quote from Martin Luther King Jr. yesterday on the day remembering him, talking about it's not about the bad people, it's about the good people doing nothing.
Exactly.
I didn't do the quote as beautifully as he did, of course, but you get the idea. It's been obviously a very challenging time for all of you. But Andrea, every time we speak, you still share hope that things can get turned around. What are the steps to getting this turned around?
Well, first and foremost, tonight we're hoping that the trustees vote in favor of a motion to hire a Jewish equity coach. It's not going to be a panacea, but it is a really important step and a very meaningful one for the Jewish community. So that's our first and foremost goal that hopefully can take place this evening. But it's really about education, and I've said this time and time again, but that's the only path forward. It's education about hate. It's unpacking what is and isn't anti-Semitic, and it's giving young people the tools to be able to navigate this. So if you look at the murky world of online, which young people, are in every day, they need to be given the tools to understand what is and isn't accurate online so that they don't inadvertently absorb hateful messages.
Mm-hmm. Such an important message, Andrea. The one thing I won't stop doing is talking about this subject. You have an open invitation to share here anytime on City News about anything that you think that we can do to move this forward. Okay, Andrea?
I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Andrea Friedman joining us today, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Ottawa. The hate must stop. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired, and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Traffic and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 17th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, -7. In Smith Falls, it is -6. And here's what's making news this hour. Statistics Canada says the high cost of groceries offset cooling gas prices to slow inflation last month. Canada's annual inflation rate was at 6.3% for the month, down from 6.8% in November. Canadians paid 13.1% less at the gas pump in December compared to November, but grocery prices were up 11% on an annual basis, a slight improvement from 11.4% in November. And there's 3 days to go to buy a ticket for the Snowsuit Fund 50/50. The winner's portion of the draw is now over $316,000. The total as of last check was over $632,000. Half of the money goes to the jackpot winner, while the other half will be used to purchase snowsuits for kids in our city without one this winter. Tickets are available at snowsuitfund5050.com or by sending the word money to 55555 to have a donation link sent to your mobile phone. The draw is this Friday at 8:30 a.m. COVID-19 hospitalization in Quebec has gone down by 43 patients. Latest provincial data shows 236 active outbreaks and 2,073 health workers absent from work due to the virus. 1,946 people are in hospital with COVID-19. 50 of them are in the ICU. There have been 17,811 deaths since the start of the pandemic, with none reported in the last 24 hours. City News time is 11:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
We're back on City News. It's the Sam Laprade Show, and I'm Sam Laprade. We're going to be taking you through the next little bit with lots of great guests. We're going to be getting ready for lunch as well. We've invited a couple of nurses to lunch today to get their sense of what the Premier brought down yesterday with Health Minister Sylvia Jones in terms of privatization of the healthcare system. Certainly some interesting information regarding this in regards to how it may improve healthcare, or some are arguing it's not a good thing for Ontario. We wanted to get caught up today with John Fraser, interim party leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, also the MPP for Ottawa South. Hello, John. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks so much for spending time with us. I expect the last 24 hours has been very busy for you. As we know, Premier Doug Ford has outlined his plans along with the health minister of what he wants to do with healthcare in this province. Is it a good thing for the province of Ontario, or are you thinking it's a negative move?
Well, look, I think yesterday's announcement was pretty vague, actually. Didn't offer the kind of specifics that one would expect. I do think the most important thing that the Premier didn't say or wouldn't rule out is that these clinics should be not for profit. And that the Premier should come out and said that quite clearly. Independent health facilities can help in this situation, are part of a healthcare system, but they have to be not for profit. I think introducing more profit into our healthcare system is not a good thing. The last time somebody said we had to use the private sector was Premier Mike Harris and long-term care, and we've all seen the results of that experiment.
We heard from Premier Doug Ford yesterday. We're going to share a bit of that now.
So I always believe it's not either or, it's and.
So we have great hospitals working hand in hand with the clinics, and that's the way we're going to operate. Excuse the pun, but that's the way we're going to move forward with this. We have the best doctors, in my opinion, in the entire world. I'll put our docs up against anyone, best surgeons. And when they have more capacity, and they're telling me they have more capacity, but they need operating room time, then that's how we're going to deal with it. But at the end of the day, what we want to do, the bottom line, is reduce the backlog when it comes to the wait times, and it affects people's lives. You know, so many people. I remember my mother, before she passed away, she had her hip replacement, and there was a real decline. Waiting, and people that need a knee replacement, it affects their life. So we can't just leave them on the bench there for a year to wait.
So let's talk about more capacity and what the Premier spoke about, because in critics' minds right now, that the Premier broke this system only to come forward with something that in his mind fixes the system. Is there more capacity in our hospitals right now, John Fraser?
There is more capacity in our hospitals. We know that the ORs are sitting quiet. We know that we have a big challenge with healthcare human resources, which means having enough people to provide the care that people need. One of the challenges and what the Premier is presenting is that we could have a separate parallel system of clinics that's going to take away the best and the brightest from our publicly funded hospitals. And that's not a good thing, especially right now, because we have a real challenge. Ontario was the first province in Canada to start measuring wait times, and we had the best wait times in the country. Since 2018, that's been on the decline. Now, not just because of the pandemic. So for the Premier to say that this solution that he's proposing which is vague, is going to be a panacea for for what the challenges that we have with wait lists. Look, invest in our hospitals. Use that excess OR capacity. Don't appeal the ruling on Bill 124. Don't keep driving nurses out of the system. Would be a good way for the Premier to start.
Oh, let me ask you, one of the big parts of this plan that the Premier talked about was the fact that we've got a couple of different cards in our wallets. One is a credit card, one is an OHIP card, and here's what the Premier had to say about that.
No one is going to be paying any additional cost. They'll never use their credit card. They'll always use their OHIP card, and we're going to continue doing that. Do you know who runs independent businesses? Are your primary care docs. You go into your doctor, that's his own business. He pays for the overhead. You never get a bill, but OHIP pays the doc, and that's how we're going to run it. That's how I can explain it. So that's the only cost they're going to be seeing.
So do you think we'll be using our credit card? That's my question for you, John Fraser.
Well, we already are. The government cut funding for virtual care primary services. And now all across the province, there's families having to pull out their credit card just to get basic access to basic primary care services. And the government's turning a blind eye to that. I'm not surprised. The Premier is the same Premier who said, I'm not going to carve up the Greenbelt. But here's the thing, the Premier uses, doctors as the example. But doctors are very highly regulated inside the public system. They're, not only do they have the CPSO, but OHIP really highly regulates the doctors. The fees are fixed. They're not allowed to charge people more money for OHIP services. So it's not, it's kind of an apples and oranges comparison that the Premier is making. What I'm saying is, look, I think we need independent health facilities, but they should be not-for-profit. And that's because in Ontario's healthcare system, the only shareholder that should count is the patient.
So if you were waiting for a knee replacement or a hip replacement today, John, would you not say, well, thank heavens the Premier's doing something?
Well, here's the thing is that, first of all, I think they were really light on the details yesterday. What they proposed is not going to speed up the hip or knee surgery in a private clinic or in an independent health facility for anybody right now. what the Premier should be doing is investing in that excess capacity we have in our ORs, in hospitals in the city and across Ontario, and start treating the people who work on the front lines right. And that begins with not appealing Bill 124 and treating people with respect. If you want to get the wait list down, invest in the people who are going to do that for you.
So are those OR rooms, because we've never really received an answer on this, are those OR rooms dark? Are they not being utilized to their full capacity, or is it that we don't have enough docs and nurses to make it happen?
It's a combination of both, but there are, weekends, evenings across this province. Those ORs are not going, that capacity is not being used. We do have a challenge with healthcare human resources and having enough people, especially enough nurses, to provide the care that's needed when people have to go in for surgery or have to go to hospital. There's no easy, simple fix to this. But what has to happen is we have to have a commitment to publicly funded healthcare using the capacity that exists in our hospitals. An independent health facility should be connected to a hospital. It just makes sense. Again, they should be not-for-profit. I'm not against independent health facilities. I just don't think it should be, an opportunity for someone to make a buck.
Is this the start to that feared two-tier system, or is this a two-tiered system eventually?
Well, if they continue on with private for-profit companies developing independent health facilities, yeah, I'd say that's headed down that road. If they are not-for-profit and are connected to hospitals and are working with the province and the hospitals and our healthcare system to improve our healthcare human resources, that will be good. But if they, if we start to corporatize the delivery of healthcare in this province and add shareholders and profit into that, we're going to get the same results that we've seen with private for-profit involvement in long-term care. And it was very clear during the pandemic that there was a competition between the residents and the shareholders and equity builders in those corporations.
The regulations regarding health care in this province, do you not think that those will oversee those clinics to ensure we don't land in the same situation? I mean, the regulations regarding long-term care, what fell short there? Because we know that people died, John. I mean, during the pandemic because of the way that that those healthcare facilities were run in many cases.
Well, our long-term care system is heavily regulated, and literally they're like franchise agreements because you're dealing with a private for-profit company, and I don't think that they've worked the way that they're intended. And I think the challenge with that is there's a competition between the residents and the shareholders and the need for a corporation to make a profit. I mean, that's what corporations do. I think that we can build a publicly funded, publicly governed, publicly owned healthcare system in this province. Governments have been up to the challenge in the past. I'm not sure why the Premier and his minister and his government feel that they have to go outside.
Do you think that the repealing of Bill 124 and the investment back into healthcare, we know that there was a surplus of literally billions of dollars that maybe could have been invested back, were the steps that needed to be taken before this step?
Well, look, Bill 124 is not the only cause of the cause of the challenge that we're in right now, but it is something that made the situation far worse than it needed to be. And I don't understand for the life of me why the Premier and this government don't understand that. Basically, what they told frontline healthcare workers, a lot of nurses, a lot of women, you don't have the right to bargain. Sorry, you don't have the right to bargain. Well, not even sorry. And now they're just, even though they've been ruled against in the courts, it's almost the same as using the notwithstanding clause, because that's what the Premier tried to do anyways with the notwithstanding clause, is restrict people's basic rights. So, I don't think we can trust this premier to build a publicly funded, publicly owned, and publicly governed healthcare system here in Ontario, where the only shareholder that counts, is the patient.
There are people in Ontario, John, that are saying to their radio right now, but it's okay with me. I mean, I just want health care where I don't have to wait, or I don't want my mom to wait, or if I needed to pay a little bit to have a better system, then that's okay with me. What do you say to people that are okay with this plan, that think actually this is a good way forward?
Well, I just firmly believe that the health care that you receive in this province should not be based on your ability to pay. I think that's the kind of healthcare system that we've tried to build here. It's not entirely perfect. And that principle is one that has done us well. It's not one that we should abandon right now, and it feels to me like the government is willing to abandon that. I'll give you the example, virtual care services. They cut the funding for that, and now an industry has sprung up where people have to use their credit card to get access to basic primary care. But the people who don't have credit cards or can't afford to do it, they won't get that access. So what happens is these things become larger problems. And I heard the minister say the other day that, she didn't think that upselling in private clinics or independent health facilities was upselling. It was just options. Well, to be clear, your health care should not be determined on your ability to pay.
Appreciate your time. Always. Thank you so much, John Fraser.
Thanks, Sam. Take care.
John Fraser is the interim party leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, also the MPP for Ottawa South. Appreciate his time today. When we come back, we're going to take a look back. We're going to get the connection between the Netherlands and the city of Ottawa. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. Into the deep unknown. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll tell you about a new martial arts community that just opened up in the East End, and we'll tell you how they have made things really, really unique. And leading up to the Ottawa Home and Remodeling Show, we're going to tell you how you can furnish your entire home with just $1,000. That's right, I said $1,000. Also, we'll introduce you to a rare disease patient who is looking for support from the Ottawa community. All that and more on Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Rogers TV brings you a special concert filled with traditional Ukrainian carols. Experience Ukrainian Christmas and the New Year through song. Join us for a Festival of Carols concert exclusively on Rogers TV.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
I look forward to this time every single week. We invite members of the Historical Society of Ottawa to take a look back with us. And James Powell joins me now, a director of the Society. Hi, James.
Hi, Sam. How are you doing?
Always love getting caught up with you, James. You always bring us really interesting stories. And today is about the birth of a princess.
That's right. Almost exactly 80 years ago, there was a birth of a princess at the Civic Hospital in Ottawa. And it really provided an emotional pick-me-up at a very bleak moment of our history. Let me just set the scenes. Of course, midwinter, just the sort of weather like we have now. But this was going into the fourth year of war with no end in sight. Hundreds of thousands of Canadian men and women were in the military service. And staples were being rationed. Sugar, tea, coffee, butter, all were being rationed at this point in time. And the reports in the newspaper, I think, saying that meat rationing was about to begin and the butter ration was to be cut by 1/3. So it was a pretty bleak period of time. But Ottawa was going to get a pick-me-up in the form of a royal birth, something to cheer about. At 7 p.m. on 19th of January, 1943, a baby girl was born at the Civic. She is Princess Marguerite, the third daughter of Crown Princess Juliana and Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. Just to give you a little bit of background, in May of 1940, the Nazis occupied the Netherlands and the Dutch royal family fled. Queen Wilhelmina went to London, where she helped set up the Free Dutch government in exile. Prince Bernhard joined the RAF, and while Crown Princess Juliana and her two daughters, Beatrix, aged 2.5, and Irene, only 9 months, came to Canada. They first lived at 120 Lansdowne Road in Rockcliffe, and then moved to Stornoway at 54 Acacia Drive. That name sounds familiar. It is now the official residence of the leader of the opposition.
Right.
In September of 1942, Prince Bernhard announced over Radio Orange, the free Dutch radio network, that Princess Juliana was pregnant. In December, in anticipation of the birth, the Canadian government declared the hospital quarters of Princess Juliana to be extraterritorial to ensure that there be no citizenship complications should a boy be born. Had there been a boy born, that boy would have become heir to the Dutch throne. Mm-hmm. Princess Juliana's rooms at the Civic coincidentally overlooked Holland Avenue, very appropriately.
Right.
And on the hospital corridor was pinned a large Dutch flag. So on the 18th of January, Princess Juliana was admitted to hospital. She had the mumps, but so she was quite unwell at the time. But the next day, Princess Marguerite was born. Her name came from the flower, the marguerite, the daisy-like bloom that was the symbol of Dutch resistance at the time. And after Queen Wilhelmina was informed in London by telephone, Prince Bernhard announced the birth to reporters at the Chateau Laurier, and it was announced over the world. And you might imagine that this was a huge morale boost for the Dutch resistance. One underground newspaper wrote, "Little Marguerite, you will be our princess of peace. We long to have you in our midst. Come soon, Marguerite. We are waiting you with open arms." The day after the birth, the Dutch tricolor, the red, white, and blue horizontal barred flag, flew over the Peace Tower here in Ottawa. It was the first time a foreign flag has ever done so. The Carillon, the Peace Tower, played the Dutch national anthem. And the birth was celebrated by the distribution of a traditional Dutch birth treat consisting of a rusk or biscuit topped with sugar and anise. Typically, these biscuits are colored white and pink, but this time they were colored orange in honor of the colors of the Dutch royal house, and they were wrapped in orange paper tied with a red, white, and blue ribbon. So, and 6 months later, the Princess Marguerite, was christened at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church on Wellington Street. Her father, Prince Bernhard, and Queen Wilhelmina both were able to come to Ottawa for the event. Godfathers included President Roosevelt of the United States, the Governor General Earl of Athlone, and the entire Dutch merchant marine. Godmothers included Queen Mary. She was the wife of the late George V, and Martine Roll, who was identified at the time as the widow of a Dutch martyr. She had family in the Netherlands at the time, and there wanted to be, her name was kept quiet and in fear of retaliation. She was came over with Princess Juliana when in 1940.
Well, it's just fascinating, James, to know that all this happened here in the capital. And of course, we remember it all through the Tulip Festival.
Absolutely right. Shortly after the Dutch royal family moved back after the liberation, 1945, Princess Juliana sent 100,000 tulips as a way of thanks for hosting the royal family, but also in recognition of the major role played by Canadian forces in liberating the Netherlands. These were planted in front of the Civic Hospital and on Parliament Hill, and she continued to give, and indeed even till today, 20,000 tulips annually. It's important to note as well that just that previous winter of 1944-45, Dutch citizens were actually eating tulip bulbs. Dutch rations have been cut so deeply by the Nazis. So a gift of 100,000 tulips in October of 1945 wasn't quite the incredible gift.
Absolutely. I always learn so much from your visits and your colleague Ben Wise as well. I really appreciate you sharing this story today, and we wish, of course, the princess a happy birthday.
Yes, indeed, in 2 days' time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, James.
My
James
pleasure.
Powell.
Anytime, Sam.
James Powell joining us today. Thank you so much, James, Director of the Historical Society of Ottawa. I always learn something. This city is fascinating when it comes to history. We appreciate that very much. We have a very busy lunchtime for you today. We've invited two nurses to lunch today, and we know a lot of nurses are not getting a lunch these days, but we've invited Dave Virch and Rachel Muir to the table today to talk about this announcement from the Premier Doug Ford, and Health Minister for Ontario, Sylvia Jones, made some announcements yesterday regarding the privatization of healthcare in this province. We wanted to get a sense of what's on the mind of nurses today, so we're going to be speaking with those two nurses a little bit later. As well, the Cornwall Mayor is going to join us today, Justin Towndale. And he's got some very exciting news that he wants to howl about. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Do you have something to share?
Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the community billboard.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 17th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, -7. In Smiths Falls, it is -6. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. A court appearance is scheduled today for two people accused in the shooting death of an OPP constable last month. City News reporter Alex Bloomfield has the story.
25-year-old Randall McKenzie and 30-year-old Brandy Stewart Perry are charged with first-degree murder in the killing of Constable Greg Pershala. The OPP officer was shot near Hagersville on December 27th when he attended a call for a vehicle in the ditch. Police have said Pershala was ambushed as he approached the vehicle and had no chance to defend himself. McKenzie had a warrant for breach of bail conditions on assault charges in Hamilton at the time of the killing. Today's court appearance is part of the bail phase of this case. It's set for 1:30 this afternoon in the small town of Cayuga, about 15 minutes from where the killing took place. Alex Bloomfield, City News.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
A guaranteed high of -6 today. The sun sure was nice while it lasted for a couple of days here, but clouds building in and we've got active weather on the way. May see a little bit of freezing precipitation later on today through Smiths Falls and Ottawa. We're going to keep an eye on that. Overnight tonight for the nation's capital, we are expecting possibly some flurries as well as periods of light snow until Wednesday morning. Highs near 0. The guaranteed high today -6.
City News time 12:01. The Lower Town Community Association is making 2023 it's here to shed more light on the issues affecting that area. Sylvia Bigras, the Lower Town Community Association president, telling the Laprade show the uneven distribution of services in the city is affecting Lower Town.
Residents have been telling us for years that they see some issues around safety. For example, children being afraid to walk to school because there's 3 schools, in the general area of some of the larger shelters. They're worried about playing outside in parks because of needles being found. You talked about tourism, and we hear from the businesses in the market that sometimes that there is an impact as well.
Bigras says the problem is not only impacting the community, it is also impacting how people receive care. So they're advocating for each of the 24 wards in Ottawa to share the work of supporting vulnerable people in the capital, so there is less pressure on the communities in the Lower Town area. And what does the future of Ottawa's transit system look like? City News reporter Chris Curries with more from City Councillors.
City Council meets next week for the first time in 2023, and we've been hearing that the future of transit top of mind for City Councillors, especially considering the recent issues with LRT. But Riley Brockington has always focused on ridership and says while federal employees returning to the office will help, the larger play is to keep bringing in new users, which won't happen without improved bus reliability.
OC Transpo has to slay that beast. It has to provide consistently reliable, stable service.
The River Ward rep says people getting to where they want to go and on time is priority number 1. Chris Curries, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's lunchtime, everyone, here on City News. We invite community members, business leaders, and everyone to the table during our lunchtime to talk about the big news stories of the day. And we decided to invite a couple of nurses to the table today. And we know that nurses aren't getting their lunch, so this is a treat, I'm sure, for Dave Virch and Rachel Muir. Hello to you both.
Hello. Hi, Sam.
Dave Virch, of course, is an RPN in Ottawa, first vice president of CUPE's Ontario Council of Hospital Unions. Rachel Muir is an RN at the Ottawa Hospital Local Bargaining Unit president for the Ontario Nurses Association. Rachel, we know the Premier yesterday, Premier Doug Ford, and his Health Minister, Sylvia Jones, brought down some discussions in regards to healthcare in this province and privatizing some of the different surgeries, etc. Is this a good plan for the province, Rachel?
No, it's absolutely not a good plan. It's not going to solve any of the current problems and challenges that we're facing.
Is it a good plan in your mind, Dave?
No, I agree with Rachel. I think we are heading down a very slippery slope, and ultimately this will not help in our human resources crisis that we're facing in our healthcare system today.
Rachel, it's been argued over the last 24 hours or so that the Premier broke the system only to try and fix it with his solution. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely, yes. We've seen our healthcare system was struggling before we were presented with this government, and he has done nothing over the term and a bit that he's been in power to do anything to fix it. In fact, he's made sure that everything he has done has pointed us in the direction of private healthcare.
And Dave, there are a lot of people that are happy with this plan. Does that surprise you?
Well, I think really the focus needs to be that he's come up with an alternative that, in my opinion, we already have a healthcare system, a public healthcare system, publicly funded, publicly manned, that is there for Ontarians. The problem is it's severely underfunded. And I'll point to the Financial Accountability Office that says the Ford government has underspent on healthcare in the first 2 quarters by $800 million. I find it really hard to believe that $800 million, if applied into our public healthcare system, could improve our capacity and deal with the backlog of surgeries that we're currently under.
So what is the answer, Rachel, to fix healthcare in this province? Because many people are saying, listen, at least the Premier's doing something.
Well, it's health human resources. We need to be able to bargain fairly. We need to be able to put into place some of the suggestions and the solutions that the healthcare, the stakeholders have presented, but there's been no consultation with anybody who can actually speak to the issues that our frontline healthcare providers are facing on a daily basis. So until you actually speak to the people who know, look at short-term solutions to try and resolve the issues we have currently, and then moving on to long-term solutions so that we never find ourselves in this situation again, until you actually talk to the people who resolve it.
And Dave, do you feel like nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals at all have been listened to by this Premier and by his health minister?
No, I don't believe that at all. I mean, we're seeing turnover rates like we have never seen before. It's estimated that 15% of the workforce is leaving every year. This new plan is not going to do anything towards that retention piece. Quite honestly, it's actually going to make it worse, because if any healthcare worker from the public system leaves to go to a private clinic, that leaves one less healthcare provider in the public system, and it will only create a bigger burden for those who are left behind.
The Premier's saying, though, Rachel, that more nurses than ever are signing up to become nurses, and that they've hired more nurses. Who's right here, Rachel?
Well, we're certainly not seeing them in our healthcare system. Yes, there are nurses who are signing up, but they're just starting their journey. They're just starting their education. It's 4 years before they come out of of their basic education, and then it takes 2 to 3 years to become comfortable. So we're looking at 7, 8 years of training and education and support before the nurses are able to confidently say they can function independently. And that's not any sort of bad check mark on them. That's just the way our profession is. It's a complicated profession. And to say that they're there, it's delusional. They're not there. While they may be on the books, that's very different. We may have sufficient nurses on the books, but if they're not actually in our hospitals and our community care centers and our home care and all those clinics where healthcare is provided, then they're not there for us. They're not helping, and they've gone for a variety of reasons. And a big one is the policies and procedures that Doug Ford and his health ministers have put into place.
Do you think we'd be in this situation, Dave, if we hadn't have gone through this pandemic? Do you think the Ford government had to come up with this type of situation or solution if we hadn't gone through the last 2.5 or close to 3 years now of a pandemic?
Yeah, I think the pandemic has absolutely been, a factor that we have to take into consideration. But I think there were others as well. The introduction of Bill 124 had a real demoralizing effect on healthcare workers. Thankfully, the courts have struck that down. Unfortunately, this government, although they say, Premier Ford said last week that Bill 124 is gone, their government has actually appealed that court decision. I think it's a lot of factors, and I just think, we are where we are now. Now we need decisions that can actually start correcting the problem, and this government isn't providing any such answers.
And Rachel, what are those answers other than Bill 124? What are some of the other answers to getting us out of this crisis?
As you said, and I have to agree with Dave, is Bill 124 is our first step. But then they need to sit down with all healthcare unions and come up with a plan. As I said, that is short term. So yes, we need to look at how do we retain our knowledgeable, experienced staff and nurses, because they're the ones who leave that knowledge and that experience to support and mentor our new nurses, the internationally educated nurses, the new students who are graduating. They need that support as they adjust to life on the front lines, providing frontline health care. And then you need to look at how do you expedite people who wish to upgrade their education, people who at additional certifications to go with their qualifications. How do you expedite that? How do you make it financially feasible? You need to look at how do we improve the education of our new nurses. How do we make more spaces? How do we ensure that they're not coming out of university and college with unmanageable debt loads? So those are the long-term changes that we need to do. We need to stop helping Peter to pay Paul.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Dave, take me to the front line. What's it like?
Well, I can tell you there is still a tremendous amount of strain. It's sad to say, but a lot of my coworkers, they tell me they have a date on a calendar that's circled, and that's the date that they're going to be walking away from the healthcare system. And that it wasn't like that before. So, I think people are still feeling the crush of this pandemic, demoralized by the lack of support. The kind words, yes, but not the support from this government. And, many healthcare workers used to stay well beyond those dates, and now they're actually just looking for the finish line and hoping they can get there in one piece.
How's the burnout in your nursing network, Rachel? Are nurses burnt out?
They are very, very much so, yes. And I have to echo what David said. My nurses are just trying to get to the end point. 5 years ago, they would go past 55 or 57. Now they're barely making 55. And a lot of our middle career nurses they're walking away because they can't do it anymore. They're so tired. They're morally injured. They're physically burnt out. They have no lifestyle. They have nothing and no support. So there's nothing there to encourage them to stay in the career they joined so joyfully when they graduated out of high school and went into universities and colleges to start this career.
Appreciate that sentiment. Rachel Muir joining us, RN at the Ottawa Hospital, as well as local bargaining unit president for the Ontario Nurses Association. And she's joined by Dave Virch, an RPN in Ottawa, first vice president of CUPE's Ontario Council of Hospital Unions. When we come back, the conversation is going to continue here on Lunch with Sam on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. Into the deep unknown. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm not special. Cancer happens to people all the time. I take 1 mile at a time, 26 miles a day. I want to set an example that'll never be forgotten. Sometimes it feels endless. But the pain I feel is nothing. I've seen little kids in so much pain. Somewhere, the hurting must stop.
Terry Fox ran more than halfway across Canada to raise money for cancer research. Every year, millions of people around the world continue the marathon of hope in his name.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's lunchtime. Thanks so much for joining us here on City News. We invited a couple of people to the table today, and they include Rachel Muir, an RN at the Ottawa Hospital, as well as the local bargaining unit president for the Ontario Nurses Association. And Dave Virch has also pulled up a chair today. He's the RPN in Ottawa, also the first vice president of CUPE's Ontario Council of Hospital Unions. Dave, is there anything positive that comes out of the Premier's announcement yesterday in regards to some of the surgeries, et cetera, being privatized in this country, in this province?
Well, sadly, I don't see the silver lining here. I really wish the Premier would reconsider and actually put those funds into the public healthcare system. We have a healthcare system that's obviously under a lot of strain, but it has checks and balances and is highly regulated, and it's focused on positive patient outcomes. And, if funds were put into our healthcare system, I know that we have the ability to deal with this backlog and, get these people their surgeries that they sure really strongly need. And it's a shame that they're on these waiting lists. But I feel that we have a system here that is capable of doing it. It's just underfunded.
We spoke a little bit earlier with Dr. Doris Grinspan, of course, the CEO of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. And Rachel, her concern was, some of these clinics now are operating a nonprofit doing cataract surgery is close to a hospital, but some of these clinics may be located far away from a hospital. And if something goes wrong, they're putting patients in an ambulance and sending them on their way. Is that a concern of yours, Rachel?
Absolutely a concern. And the thing is, as well, is that to transfer a patient from a clinic to a hospital is just not that easy. So not only does distance play a factor, but now you've got somebody who's coming in by ambulance. Can you get the ambulance? You've got somebody who's going to an emergency department or an emergency room that's already over capacity. How long is their wait going to be to actually get in through the door? And it just sets the stage for more complications, for more loss of life even, because surgeries that are a no-brainer, as Premier Ford said, are being done in the community.
Mm-hmm. Dave, the announcement was yesterday, and we know obviously here on City News we covered it all day because it was big news in this province. How did nurses take the news? What did you hear from your nursing colleagues?
Well, I can say that, yes, the announcement was made yesterday, but this government has put out really strong feelers all along that this was part of their agenda. And, I don't think it's welcome news by healthcare workers. Again, I think they just see this as another drain on our system, and it's only going to make working conditions in our public hospitals even more difficult.
And what about you, Rachel? Did you have anybody reach out to you in regards to this announcement?
No, I would, again, echo what Dave is saying. This has been a plan that has been being put out for a while. So the feedback that I've been getting from nurses is that they don't like it. It's not going to help. We have the facilities already in place. We just don't have the health human resources to open up our ORs and to provide the care within the institutions we already have. And this sets up for longer wait times for those people who are more acutely ill with more comorbidities who do not qualify because of their health status to have their surgeries done in the community. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to help the more acutely ill in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to make their wait times longer than they already are.
What's the relationship, Dave, between nurses and doctors? Are nurses feeling supported by doctors?
Yeah, I think so. I think the whole healthcare team, quite honestly, I think we kind of rely on each other. You can't remove a piece of the puzzle and have a complete puzzle. So I think we all sort of lean on each other, and the challenges that physicians are having, we're sharing those same frustrations. But I think it really is a healthcare team, and that's the approach that I see in my workplace.
If you could go back in time, Rachel, would you do it all over again? Would you become a nurse and walk this path?
Strangely enough, yes, I would. Would I like to see it have opened and evolved differently? Absolutely. But it's a career that I love and would not have changed.
And how about
it's
yourself?
It's sad that it's come to this point.
Thank you for that, Rachel. How about yourself, Dave? Would you walk the path of an RPN all over again?
That's a great question, Sam, and I've often thought about this. But in my new role, I'm away from the hospital now, but I served 34 years as an RPN in Ottawa, and I would do it again. I think it's a great job to feel that you're actually contributing to society. You're helping people at their lowest points, and there's certainly things I take away from that, and I have a lot of pride in the work that I've done over the 34 years.
Rachel, would you see people leaving the province of Ontario to go to other provinces to work? And if so, which provinces are the provinces that nurses think, hey, I want to work in that province?
I'm actually not seeing that as much as you would think. If they are leaving the province, it's because they're leaving the province to go to another province where they have family, so they have more support. But generally speaking, what I see when nurses are leaving, they're leaving the profession. They're not leaving to practice the profession elsewhere, or they're leaving it to practice as an agency nurse where they have some control over their their work-life balance, and that is also not a good situation because that is more of a drain on our healthcare system. It takes funds out of the public healthcare system and puts them into the hand of the private healthcare provider.
We heard, Dave, a lot that nurses leave for the United States, that they get their training here, they might work here for a little bit, but then they are bound for our neighbor to the south. Are you still seeing that, or is that a myth? Is that a nursing myth?
No, I think that is in some cases the reality. I don't think it is as widespread, and to Rachel's point as well, I don't see a lot of that. What I'm actually seeing are healthcare workers that are actually leaving the profession altogether. They've hit their breaking point, and they've just decided to move on. Mm-hmm. And it's a heartbreaking decision, really, because people who enter into this profession enter into it to help people, and they must be at their absolute wit's end to come to that conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to invite Premier Ford and Sylvia Jones to spend time with you, Rachel, on a shift?
I would. I'd like them to follow me around on a shift and get the breaks when I get breaks, all that sort of thing, to really see what it's like, to not be followed around with an entourage, but to be there in scrubs with me when I'm working 12 hours with maybe one break, when I can't take bathroom breaks because my patients they need me more than I need to do that sort of thing, and to just see just how difficult my chosen career has become because of things that are out of my control.
Well, maybe the Premier will take you up on that someday, Rachel. Thank you so much for your time today. Rachel Muir joining us today, an RN at the Ottawa Hospital Local Bargaining Unit, President for the Ontario Nurses Association. And she was joined, thank you so much, Dave Virch. Dave Virch joined us as an RPN in Ottawa, also the first Vice President of CUPE's Ontario Council of Hospital Unions. Thank you both for spending time with us here on City News.
Thank you very much for hearing us.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
It's always my pleasure. A great conversation today. I've never had lunch with two nurses before, so that was fantastic. Appreciate their time today. Lots of great discussion. When we come back, it is the business lunch, and we've got something to howl about happening in Cornwall. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 17th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, -6. In Smith Falls, it is -4. And here's what's making news this hour. CHEO says it is once again caring for older teenagers after a surge in respiratory illnesses pushed it to divert treatment of young people to adult hospitals. In an update on the status of the pediatric hospital, officials say they are now providing emergency and inpatient care to all 16 and 17-year-olds as pressure on the hospital continues to stabilize. CHEO thanking the nearby hospitals who had taken on some teenage patients between November and now. And COVID-19 hospitalization in Quebec has gone down by 43 patients. Latest provincial data showing 236 active outbreaks and 2,073 health workers absent from work due to the virus. 1,946 people are in hospital with COVID-19, 50 of them in the ICU. And there have been 17,811 deaths since the start of the pandemic, with none reported in the last 24 hours. And there's 3 days to go to buy a ticket for the Snowsuit Fund 50/50. The winner's portion of the draw is now over $316,000. The total as of the last check was $632,000. It's over that, actually. And half of the money goes to the jackpot winner, while the other half will be used to purchase snowsuits for kids in our city without one this winter. Tickets are available at snowsuitfund5050.com or by sending the word money to 55555 to have a donation link sent to your mobile phone. The draw is this Friday at 8:30 a.m. City News time is 12:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, if there's one thing we love doing on the Sam Laprade Show is taking a little road trip. And here we go. We're heading all the way to Cornwall to meet with the one and only Cornwall Mayor, Justin Towndale. Hello, Mayor.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How's everything in Cornwall?
I think everything's great, actually. We've had some good news over the last little while, so things are certainly looking up.
Okay, let's talk about some of that good news, because I know you want to howl about this. We understand that Great Wolf Lodge is coming to Cornwall.
Absolutely. I definitely want to howl about this. This is big news, not just for Cornwall, but for the entire region as a whole.
Have you ever been to a Great Wolf Lodge before?
You know, sadly, I haven't.
Okay, so I'll tell you. We've been, my daughter and I think we've gone 4 or 5 times, and we always have a blast. She just turned 15, and she still wants to go back. So it's great family entertainment, obviously. But tell us what's planned, because I think it's planned to open in 2026, correct?
Well, I know they're looking to break ground in the next year or so. so 2024, but it will take a few years for construction. So I would say 2026 is probably at the front end of that timeline, but it could take a little longer just based on the size of the resort they're looking to build.
Now, if there's one thing I know that mayors think about, it's job creation and tourism. This does both of those things. How exciting is that for this particular time in Cornwall's history?
Well, I mean, it's unparalleled. You know, it's it's a $350 million investment. So not only will there be permanent jobs, you know, we're looking at about 500 people who will be working at the resort year round. The construction jobs leading in and the trades jobs are going to be quite numerous as well. So the impact it's going to have in our community just in terms of employment, tax base and whatnot, and also being a premier tourist attraction that will attract from Ontario, Quebec, New York, and beyond is just incredible. It's going to change the face of the community and have the impact is going to be measurable for years and years to come.
And we know Great Wolf Lodge likes being on the border of Canada and the U.S. They have that location, beautiful location in Niagara Falls, which is the one that we've gone to a number of times. So, and you've touched on it there, being on the border attracts both countries, of course, tourism from not only the States, but, people wanting to tour around their own country here in Canada. Walk us through why did they choose Cornwall? Obviously, the fact that you're a border city, but why else? What else attracted them to your city?
I think there's a combination of factors. You know, you touched on our location. Being a border community with Northern New York is a big one, but we also are very close to Quebec as well, and part of their hope is to draw from Montreal, which is also an hour from us. I think being near the nation's capital certainly doesn't hurt by any means. But beyond that, I think our community does have a lot to offer. I think, the Cornwall has had a reputation over the years of being a terrible place, but it's really not. It's a beautiful location. It's a great community. People here are very friendly, and it's on the up and up, and that certainly contributes to that, I think. And, we have a workforce that's readily available. It's bilingual. And I think that coupled with other tourist attractions in the area and the available land that we have really, really make it a very viable option and a great option for this.
Mm-hmm. And we know that usually a Great Wolf Lodge includes lots of family activities, obviously, usually a beautiful water park as well. Is that all planned for this Great Wolf Lodge in Cornwall?
Yes, that's my understanding. So obviously, the premier part of the Great Wolf Lodge is the water park, the indoor water park. But my understanding is they're looking at putting in an arcade as well, a couple of restaurants, and beyond that, they're looking to have a conference center, 350 hotel rooms as well. So not only will there be, huge opportunities for kids to play, but it looks like the adults can find plenty to keep themselves busy as well.
Mm-hmm. And you touched on something really interesting. You were saying, maybe in the past, Cornwall hasn't had the best reputation. Why do you think that is, Mayor?
Well, I think there's a number of factors, but for years we had a paper mill here, and the smell of sulfur in the air, gave us that kind of moniker that we were, the armpit of Ontario because of the smell. Well, that was the smell of money back in the day. That kept a lot of families fed and a lot of people employed, but the mill has been closed now since 2006. So here we are decades later. And, over the years, we've seen the city change quite a bit, and the water's gotten cleaner, the air's gotten cleaner, and, fishing has become huge here. We were actually ranked in an Expedia list for one of the greenest cities in Canada, which was remarkable. So, the city, people still have that image of us being the old school Cornwall where it's a mill town, and they can't seem to get beyond that. But we have evolved and we've changed. So this is just one example of that. We're going to be a tourist destination more so than we already are.
Mm-hmm. What else is a priority for you as mayor of Cornwall?
Well, just like many other mayors across the country, housing is a big one for us. That's the housing crunch has affected us as well. Affordable housing. We have two projects on the go right now, with one being ready for occupancy in a couple months and one that's going to break ground soon. So, that's something that we've been focusing on. Doctors, that's something we need to look at, how to attract more doctors and even expand that to maybe look at attracting nurse practitioners and nurses in general, because as you know, the healthcare sector across the country is suffering right now. So I'd say the concerns are in line with a lot of what's going on across Canada as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Did you see people sort of saying, okay, we're gonna move to Cornwall during the pandemic because they wanted to maybe leave a city like Ottawa or a city like Montreal and go for something a bit quieter?
We absolutely did. I mean, the housing bubble affected us here as well, and we certainly saw an increase in our housing prices, but part of that was also driven by people leaving Montreal and Toronto and Ottawa and moving here, selling their homes at a higher price and purchasing here at a lower price. And we also saw the rise of remote work, and we are familiar with we implemented a remote work strategy, and we have seen success in that regard. We've attracted a lot of professionals who are able to work from here. And, even being so close to Ottawa and Montreal, and, the federal government has now reinstituted working from the office, but there's still a number of people here who are ready to work 2-3 days in their office in Ottawa and spend the rest of their time here in Cornwall. And I think, part of the appeal is the lower cost of living. We actually have the lowest hydro in the province because we get our power from Quebec, so we're not on the Ontario grid, and that's something I don't think that's commonly known, but you will find that your electricity bill here will be a lot less. We're on the St. Lawrence River. It's beautiful in the summer. There's, like I said, fishing, boating. There's a lot of activities like that. The recreation path, the waterfront trail, comes right through the city. You can cycle, run, whatever. So there's a lot of activities to keep people busy here, and it's not as busy as Ottawa, Montreal, or Toronto. So you get that really great quality of life, and for a fraction of the cost.
Are you still getting used to your new title of mayor?
I am. I'm not sure it's fully set in yet. I was a councillor for 8 years prior, but mayor is certainly a different ballgame. But I like to think I hit the ground running, and I'm doing my best to work hard every day for the citizens that I represent.
Mm-hmm. I know we head to Cornwall a couple times a year because my daughter has soccer there, and I certainly have seen some development, and it always surprises me. I think, well, there's Cornwall, a little booming city, which we don't think about, but I can see that you've got your eyes on the future and making sure that people know that Cornwall is a great place to not only live but play and work.
Absolutely. I mean, even, in the 8 years that I've been around the table at council, I've seen the city change so much. Just the services and the stores that have come here and opened up, and then the people who have moved here. We're still, our population growth is still a little low. It hasn't really grown much. We're still around 50,000, but we're starting to see increases. And we've also seen an influx of immigration here from the asylum seekers from the U.S., refugees from across the world, and now individuals leaving the larger communities. So Cornwall, despite being a small community, is actually very diverse these days. So it certainly is changing.
Well, that's fantastic. So you and I need to talk in the next little while. So let's stay in touch. Maybe every 6 months we'll get caught up on what's happening with Great Wolf Lodge and everything happening in Cornwall, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a great plan.
Look forward to it. Cornwall Mayor Justin Towndale talking all about Cornwall today and howling about the fact Great Wolf Lodge is coming their way in 2026. Such a fun place to visit. Great news for Cornwall. When we come back, we're going to meet a woman, and you will never, ever forget her story. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. Into the deep unknown. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, we'll tell you about a new martial arts community that just opened up in the East End, and we'll tell you how they have made things really, really unique. And leading up to the Ottawa Home and Remodeling Show, we're going to tell you how you can furnish your entire home with just $1,000. That's right, I said $1,000. Also, we'll introduce you to a rare disease patient who is looking for support from the Ottawa community. All that and more on Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay. There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay? It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we're going to share an incredible story with you, a story that I've been following. And this is the story of a woman by the name of Holly Francis. And weeks after giving birth, Holly went from being a healthy 26-year-old new mom to being paralyzed and on life support, and in less than 72 hours. She was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder, and Holly was trapped in her own body, unable to move, speak, or hold that beautiful newborn baby daughter. Holly joins me now. Hi, Holly.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, Holly, I've been following your story, and the videos are absolutely heartbreaking. You've come so far, and you've written a book, and this is the Business Lunch today. We talk a lot about books and authors, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to share your story today, Holly, and you've written a book called Life Support. When did you decide to share your story in a book?
To be honest, I wrote this book. I started writing this about a year after I got out of the hospital. So immediately after my recovery, I really wanted to share what it was like to go through Guillain-Barré syndrome. So most people have never heard of GBS, this rare autoimmune disorder that only affects about 2 out of every 100,000 people. And my family had never heard of it. I had never heard of it. And it came on so suddenly, and it came on so traumatically. And I was obviously left paralyzed and on life support in the hospital for months and months. And I wanted to bring awareness to GBS and what it was and what it does to somebody. And I wanted to inspire other people that were not only going through it at the time, or maybe they had recovered from it years later. They wanted to just connect with somebody else who had gone through it. Mm-hmm. I also wanted to educate doctors, just because I also dealt with a lot of doctors and nurses that had only ever seen a case of it once or twice, or some none at all. And so just really wanted to show and educate what it's like to go through that experience, what it's like to go through GBS, and what it's like to be hospitalized and in an ICU for that long of a period of time.
So, Holly, tell me, you find yourself pregnant, you're excited, you're going to welcome this new baby girl. Was there any hint at all that you may have GBS?
No, and so GBS comes on very, very quickly, and in my case, it was very, very sudden. And so it came on at first with a tingle in my fingertip, progressed to pain in my neck, and then progressed to weakness in my legs. And this all happened within a couple hours. So prior to that, I was completely healthy, no health concerns, no issues at all. And it was likely either childbirth or the C-section, so surgery, that triggered my case. And so with the autoimmune response, it takes a few weeks for that response and for it to start attacking the nerves, is what it did to me. And like I said, it just came on so suddenly and just changed the course of my life so quickly. And within 72 hours, paralysis actually spread up my body and affected my diaphragm, and I was put on life support.
And the videos, I have a hard time talking about them. I don't know how you do it, Holly. The videos, who sort of had the wherewithal to create these videos? Because I think most of us, if there was a situation we would find ourselves like that, we wouldn't want videos of it. But was it because these were moments you were being captured holding your daughter, being helped to hold your daughter, I should say? They're emotional to watch, Holly.
Yeah, and it is kind of funny to look back on, because at the time I did not want to be filmed, actually, and there were times where I was thinking, get this camera out of my face. It was my mother that had taped it, and there was a reason, and it was because the hospital had got in touch with another GBS survivor who had recovered completely, and he came to visit us, and he had also done a video because his family had recorded him in the hospital, wanting to show him his progress, and so my parents felt that was a good idea. They felt that they could document what was going on. Of course, take pictures as well with me and my daughter. They thought that I might want those one day. They wanted to show that I was getting better. So even though I couldn't see progress, there was improvements, and they were filming basically every kind of step of the way. And it ended up being the most amazing blessing, obviously, because after I recovered, I was able to look back on those videos. I was able to see how far I'd come, see what I'd overcome, and just look back and just it was just in awe of what I had accomplished. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to splice all those videos together, put them out on social media. They ended up going viral, and that completely changed my life and put me on this new path. Prior to that, I didn't really feel like I had a purpose in my life. And then after this happened, suddenly I had people all over the world that had survived GBS and had never met a GBS patient before, and they were wanting to connect with me, and family members who had a family in ICU fighting for their life, and they were asking questions, and doctors and nurses reaching out to me, thanking me for sharing my story and shedding light on GBS. So it all ended up working out for the best, and I'm grateful that those videos were created. And yeah, they're emotional and they're tough to watch, but I truly do find that they just give me so much gratitude for where I am today.
And Holly, you wrote a book called Life Support, Surviving GBS, A Mother's Story of Hope and Recovery. Where can we get it? It's just being launched, right?
It is, yeah. It just launched a couple of days ago, and so you can find it on Amazon. There's a paperback as well as the Kindle e-reader that you can read either from your phone or from a tablet or an iPad.
Mm-hmm. When you're introduced as author, what does that feel like?
It feels amazing. I've worked very hard. I've been writing this book now for 5 years, and I'm just happy that it's out there and that people are going to better understand Guillain-Barré syndrome, because it is so rare, and you truly don't understand what it's like to go through that experience unless you're there. And so I hope my book not only, like I said, brings awareness to GBS, but also just inspires other people that, you know what, if I can go from rock bottom, literally paralyzed, unable to move anything, and then go to where I am now, fully recovered, in the best shape of my life, living life to the fullest, I think anybody can just hold on to that hope that things can get better, whatever they're going through as well.
Holly, what do you tell your daughter?
I tell her never, ever give up. Just that's kind of what got me through what I did. And you know what? Life is hard, and there's going to be hard days, but you just got to always promise that you'll never give up.
Appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Such an inspiring story, and if you are ever feeling down, honestly, you can see these videos, and it'll just bring you absolute hope. We wanted to spend some time today with Holly, and you can get her book called Life Support, and her name is Holly Francis. Life Support, Surviving GBS, A Mother's Story of Hope and Recovery. We wanted to connect today as well with our friends at Little Rays. Hello, Shane McConnell joining us now. Hi, Shane.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. Shane is the Director of Exhibits and Marketing. What a cool job you have.
It's the best.
For the one person on the planet that doesn't know about Little Rays, tell us what you do.
I'm the director of sales and marketing for Little Rays. So I actually manage all of our marketing, museum exhibits, and I help out with the nature centers and rescues from time to time as well.
It's amazing. And you've got some big news to share, Shane.
Yeah, we are actually coming out with new outdoor exhibits, which is pretty exciting. And we also have an exhibit that is opening at the Museum of Nature this upcoming summer.
Well, that's exciting. Little Rays just always seems to be up to something. I know founder Paul Goulet is always looking for creative ways. It's been tough over the pandemic. Do you feel you're on the other side of it, Shane?
Yeah, and we've actually learned quite a bit from being through the pandemic, which has helped us a lot, especially with moving forward. We still have quite a ways to go, but we're actually looking for a public launch of the new Nature Center within the next month or two.
Amazing.
Just in the spring.
Amazing. And I know kids and families will love that, Shane. It's just a staple now in our capital area for kids to visit Little Rays. And I understand they're going to be able to maybe meet a very special sloth.
Oh, yeah. We've got, our sloths are definitely at the zoo. They are super excited. They have been incredibly popular with our private tours that have been running throughout the pandemic. And I think people are absolutely in love with them.
Why do we love sloths so much, Shane? What is it about a sloth?
I think it's just that whole mentality. You know, everyone's running around right now, kind of crazy busy, especially coming out of the pandemic, and sloths are just, lying around. They're slow moving. They're relaxed. It's just something we can aspire to, I think.
That sounds like me on the holidays, Shane. That was me on the holidays. And let's inspire people to visit. How can we participate?
Well, you can visit our website at littlerays.org, or you can call us at any time, and you can actually book a private tour now. And we are launching our general admission sometime in the spring. But aside from that, just give us a call.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming spring. And everybody needs to visit Little Rays, and I'm so happy that you had the opportunity to join me today, Shane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shane McConnell representing Little Rays today. If you haven't been to Little Rays, we know there's some upcoming opportunities, so definitely reach out there. Head to their website. All the good details are there. Director of Exhibits and Marketing. We appreciate Shane's time today. It's an exciting week here on City News. Do you know why, Noah?
Oh, I know why, Sam. Last night, we passed $600,000 for the Snowsuit Fund 50/50.
Okay, I was going to check in a minute, and I didn't know we had hit that number.
Actually, today I believe we passed 630,000.
That's incredible.
It's very incredible, and shows the generosity of all of our listeners.
100%. We know the Snowsuit Fund 50/50 is always an exciting time here. Last year, the winner walked away with $407,000, which means the Snowsuit Fund walked away with $407,000. So every single time we buy tickets, and I know they range from $10 right up to $100, it really for everybody. And I think what we know is that so many different kids are obviously looking for snowsuit funds, snowsuits, I should say, and the Snowsuit Fund has been there for so long. So what we can do, I don't know if you know, we can text the word money to 55555. It's super easy.
So it's just you text money to 55555.
Right.
Okay, that's super easy.
It's amazing.
You hear that, everyone. Text money to 55555 and make your donation.
Look at us making things happen here at City News. I hope we've inspired someone today to get those tickets. The deadline, of course, is coming up. We know that big draw will take place on Friday, January the 20th. We are all abuzz here at City News about the Snowsuit Fund 50/50. Get your tickets today. Don't delay. Stay with us here on City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.